The three podcasts for this week deal with the delivery of messages, either informational messages or messages of a positive nature or messages of a less than positive nature. These different kinds of messages constitute an important part of the work world in our dealings with our supervisors, our bosses, in our dealings with those that we supervise, and in our dealings with our clients or the people who buy our products. In all of these situations, we've got to be able to deliver both positive and sometimes negative messages in a way that continually upholds the purposes of the organization that we work for and that makes us and our company look good. Before we look at the different kinds of messages, let's refresh our memories on the PIBOK method, or the 6-part communication analytical tool that our textbook authors have made the centerpiece of the way that they present workforce communication. When we set out to make any kind of communication, good or bad, we ask first, what is the purpose of the communication? And there will usually be more than one purpose. So what are the purposes of the communication? Second, who are the audiences? And remember, there are usually several audiences for the communication. Third, what information must the message include? Fourth, what are the benefits that the people who are receiving the communication might hope to achieve if they support the communication? 5, what objections can you anticipate to the communication that you can anticipate and answer in advance? And finally, how will the context affect reader response? And each of these will be important considerations in all 3 of the podcasts for this week. The primary purposes of informative and positive messages are, first of all, to simply convey information, to give good news, to make people happy, to create support for what you're doing and what you have done. Second, you want to have the reader see the positive information and view it positively. And third, you want to present but de-emphasize the negative elements of the message, the cloud that is inside of the silver lining that you're presenting. You will often have secondary purposes in these kinds of communications as well. You will want to build a good image of yourself. You want to look good for your boss, or for your employees, or for your clients, or for whoever you're sending this communication to. You want to build a good image of your organization if this communication is going externally. You want to do some PR work. You want to get people to think well of who and what you represent. You are always, with any kind of communication, you're building a relationship with somebody else or somebody's else. And those relationships will become part of the context for future communications. And whether it's a positive or a negative communication that you are issuing at the moment, how you use that communication to add to or detract from your relationship with the receiver or the receivers will have a lot to do with how future kinds of communications are received. And finally, you want to be complete so you don't have to say anything about this again. You don't want to create confusion or the need for future communications. You want to simply say it and be done with it and let everybody celebrate and be happy. Here's a dirty little secret. A lot of times people don't read all of their email. They just look at the subject line and decide whether or not it's something they need to read, or whether they can just file it somewhere or forward it to somebody and be done with it. So this means 2 things for you. First, your subject lines have to make people want to read the email or the memo. This can also be true of paper memos. Secondly, it's got to contain enough information so that even if it's all that somebody reads, they'll get the message you want them to get. So your subject line should be specific and they should be concise. Because, as I said, sometimes it's the only part of the message that somebody will read. So if you want to congratulate the company for the fact that sales are up, a subject line might read something like, "Congratulations, sales are up." Or perhaps, "Sales are up, congratulations." But make sure that from the very beginning, you're being concise and you're being informational and you're being positive. After you communicate the information that you have to communicate, And this should be short, but not shorter than necessary, because you want to be complete. You want to make sure that the last paragraph does something special, does something specific. Your book calls this the goodwill ending, and this is an ending that focuses the attention of the reader on you and your organization and is designed to build goodwill and good feelings. If you're writing to a single person, make sure you say something specific to and about that person. Don't just make it generic. We've all received generic letters of congratulation that could have been written by a computer or, for all we know, a cat. And those don't make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. But if somebody says something specific about you, and they say something specifically to you, that builds goodwill. And I would strongly recommend that in the cases where you're congratulating people, you use a handwritten note, not an email or even a typed note, because that makes people feel special. And when people feel special, they like you. They like your organization. Second, make sure that if you're writing to somebody outside of your organization, you refer in your final paragraph to the collaboration between your organizations or between your organization and this person. And finally, when you're writing to people that you supervise or to people within a company, say something that gets people feeling good about the organization that they belong to. And this is true if the message is very positive or even if it's just informational. People should associate good feelings, positive feelings, warm, fuzzy feelings in the cockles of their heart with you and with your organization. This leads us to a pretty good set of rules of thumb for writing positive and informative communications, whether it's a memo or an email or a web post or a blog post or however it is that you're going to communicate, things that are designed to be informational, informative, and generally positive. First, give the positive news, both in the subject line and in the first sentence that you say. Second, give any details or clarification or background information. Don't give this first. A lot of people give the details first and work into the positive news. Say what's good and what's positive and what's important first, and then clarify and expand, because you've got to realize sometimes people stop reading after they get the information that they think is important. Third, if there are negative elements, and very often there are negative elements embedded in the positive news, treat them, deal with them, but deal with them with as positive a spin as you can manage. Fourth, explain the benefits. One of your basic PIBOK. This is the B of PIBOK. Explain the benefits to the reader or the listener of the communication that you're making and the news that you're conveying. And 5, use a goodwill ending that is positive, personal, and forward-looking. I've crafted a little example here. We're going to listen to Dean Filber. This is Professor Flagbag's dean at the college, and she's going to give some positive information. And imagine that this is a written memo, though I'm having her speak these words, talking about the recent success of the college in the Dartmouth Review's survey of colleges and universities.
Dear colleagues, it is my pleasure to inform you that the Dartmouth Review has ranked our college among the top 10% of all four-year schools in the country in the area of student satisfaction. As you know, the Dartmouth Review is one of the premier college ranking services in the country, and their rankings are used extensively by students and their parents to make educational decisions. More than 3,000 schools participated in the survey, which measured student attitudes towards instructors, student activities, dining services, and parking. This does not mean our work is done. While it is an honor to be included in the top 10%, the survey also showed that some of our students, especially those in first-year composition classes, feel some lack of support from our senior faculty. This is an issue that we will continue to address. But this ranking does show that our college-wide initiative to improve the experience of our students is beginning to pay off. The President has authorized me to tell you that, as a result of our increased student retention, she has authorized a 5% raise for all faculty and staff, effective immediately. Thank you so much for the work that you have done to make students feel happy and connected to their university. It has been a pleasure to work with you as your dean this year, and I look forward to many years of good work as we continue to improve the experience of our students.